Excellencies and delegates, dear colleagues and friends, it is my honor to address you today as independent expert on the enjoyment of all human rights by older persons. First of all, I would like to express my gratitude to everyone who is engaged with the mandate over the past year and to those who have contributed valuable input to the preparation of my thematic, but also to my country reports. This year's report explored the intersection of two fundamental and inseparable rights: the right to social protection and the right to work. The context for this report is urgent. People are living longer than ever before, which is a huge success. But it also requires adaptation of our social, political, and economic institutions. By 2050, the number of people aged 60 and over is expected to double. In some regions, older persons with all the different lived realities will make up more than a third of the total population. Yet all too often, aging population are spoken of only as a cost and a burden. And it is not taking into account that inaction will really lead to much higher costs for our societies. The purpose of this report is to challenge those assumptions and place older persons where they belong, at the center of human rights-based approach to social protection and work. The obstacles older persons face are not simply individual or circumstantial, but are embedded in a broader system. They are rooted in structural ageism. This has an impact on institutions, laws, policies, and societies as a whole. Older persons are often excluded from the labor markets based on ageist stereotypes. In social protection schemes and the criteria and the narratives that depict older persons as passive recipients of social allowances and care, rather than rights holders and active contributors to societies. Structural ageism denies dignity and perpetuates invisibility. Madam Vice Chair, the right to work is essential for participation, autonomy, and dignity. Work provides not only income, but also meaning, a basis for social inclusion, and a sense of belonging to the society. Excluding people from work on the basis of age denies them a core dimension of human life. However, the right to work cannot be fully realized without social protection. Without adequate pensions or health coverage, older persons are forced to work under conditions of precarity and exploitation. Within the scope of my findings, I would also like to emphasize that the right to work does not expire at a certain age. It is a lifelong right, and older persons must be free to choose if, how, and under what conditions they really want to work and contribute. Excluding them is a waste of human potential. Therefore, labor markets need to adapt to ensure their inclusion for as long as they want. This could involve offering flexible and decent work opportunities, investing in lifelong learning, recognizing both paid and unpaid contributions, and ensuring that older persons are not forced out of work due to prejudice. Turning to the subject of social protection, I would really like to advocate for its universality and adequacy. Social protection system must guarantee every older person a minimum standard of living with dignity. This means providing income security through pensions and other schemes, ensuring access to affordable health care, and protecting people against life's uncertainties. Social protection systems must be able to adapt to crisis, as we have seen during the COVID-19 pandemic. Old age allowances are often insufficient to reduce poverty, for instance, because the whole amount is used for medical expenses. In some cases, the allowance is just 10% of the minimum monthly wage. Persons with lower income enjoy lower social protection through contributory systems to be at a higher risk of living in poverty and to have to rely on non-contributory allowances. Particularly in cases of low-paid workers, those with interrupted careers, pensions levels do not always meet the needs of older persons, especially older women. I urge states to adopt a human rights-based approach in all areas of social protection and the labor market policies and laws. This involves designing systems that uphold the principles of autonomy, dignity, non-discrimination, and participation. It means tackling ageist assumptions that promote exclusion. It also means ensuring that older persons themselves are actively involved in shaping the policies that affect them, rather than being treated as passive recipients. I would like to emphasize the importance of inclusive and flexible labor markets that enable older persons to remain in a re-enter employment under conditions that respect their choices and capabilities. Another important issue is data. Without disaggregated information about the situation of older persons, policies will remain inadequate. Excellencies, colleagues, and friends, while many states are facing economic challenges and limited budgets, we cannot deny the choices must be made. However, there is a strong argument that investing in social protection and inclusive employment is never a lost investment, but rather a driver of stability. The costs of inactions are much higher. Despite the turbulent times we are currently living in, I'm convinced that with political will, commitment, and respect for human rights, we can build societies in which aging is met with inclusion rather than exclusion, protection rather than neglect, and recognition rather than silence. To ensure the best protection, I encourage you to support the development of a legally binding instrument for the human rights of older persons. Madam Vice President, colleagues, and friends, now allow me to share some insights from the 2 country visits I've undertaken. Firstly, I would like to express my deepest gratitude and sincere appreciation to the governments of Malaysia and Saudi Arabia for the invitations. In December 2022, I had the pleasure to undertake a 12-day country visit to Malaysia. The government efforts to quickly adapt to the ongoing demographic shift that will make Malaysia an aged nation by 2030 are commendable. I was pleased to see positive initiatives such as social allowances, free healthcare contribution to the well-being of older persons. However, I was made aware of ongoing challenges throughout the country. For example, the system for non-contributor social protection allowances for older persons is complex and fragmented, making it difficult to navigate. Furthermore, the traditional system of families providing for older persons should not be used as a pretext to minimize the government's responsibility in this regard. While I commend the positive initiatives that facilitate older persons' access to employment, especially for vulnerable groups, there is a lack of a specific focus on intersectional discrimination affecting older women, older indigenous persons, older migrants, older LGBTIQ persons, and others. Having recognized aging as a priority, I encourage Malaysia to turn this recognition into a rights-based action. In April 2025, I accepted an invitation from the government of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to undertake a 10-day visit to the country. Throughout my visit, I observed visible efforts to improve the situation of older persons. For instance, there were impressive leaps towards modernization, including a myriad of services for older persons that are difficult to find anywhere else. These include at-home and virtual healthcare and civil registry service, as well as advanced medical services in prisons. However, a rights-based approach requires focus on those who are in the most vulnerable situation. In the case of Saudi Arabia, non-residents seem to remain largely excluded from public policies for older persons, despite making up a large proportion of the older population. Most importantly, they are excluded from free healthcare and social security benefits. I encourage the government to extend the protection to be available to all older persons in the country. I hope that the further findings and recommendations in the 2 country reports will help both governments build a better future for older persons, and I can assure you that the mandate is ready for further dialogue and technical assistance. Madam Vice President, Excellencies, distinguished delegates and friends, let us not waste any more time. Let us affirm together that the human rights do not diminish with age. They are lifelong, they belong to all of us. I hope to continue engaging positively and constructively with all the states. As my last words to you in the opening remarks, I want to draw your attention to a current situation which impacts us all mandates holders in the special procedures. I unconditionally denounce the US government's sanction on the Special Rapporteur on the occupied Palestinian territory. I express my full solidarity with Francesca Albanese. Sanctioning a Special Rapporteur appointed by the Human Rights Council violates international law and is a direct attack on the integrity of the UN human rights system, including special procedures as a whole. I call on all states to act decisively to denounce these sanctions and refuse to carry them out. I also call on the United States to immediately withdraw these illegal sanctions. I thank you for your attention and your commitment, and I'm very much looking forward to our interactive dialogue today, and I would like to express my sincere gratitude for your attention and your support. Thank you.